Hey guys, it is Dan here and our good buddy Merlin,
Hello.
aka Joe.
Hello, hello.
Hello, and guess what it's time for once again?
Dan Reviews It presents the Anthology
The Anthology
Zone.
Zone.
What a mouthful. All the Anthology shows.
So this month we just do the random number generator. I put it in, and this month we came
late.
up with. It's actually this is for March, yeah. So this is a little late, but Tales from the Darkside, which is a show that I was unaware of its
Timeline?
I thought it was after Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah.
But it's not.
That's what I thought.
So this aired, Tales from the Darkside, debuted in 1983 with a pilot episode and then got picked up, and it was a syndicated show. It did not air on a specific network.
Okay.
I believe, if my memory is correct, it was on my NBC affiliate late at night, and it ran from 84 to 88, 4 seasons.
Nice.
And it aired mostly at late nights on the weekends.
It's a little scary.
And this is a anthology, of course, as we all know. This is what the whole thing is about. So reruns currently air on the Horror Channel. If you have that, I don't even know what that is.
Channel.
It doesn't think like the streamer. It just says Horror Channel.
Okay.
So whatever. But I looked for this. There's pieces of this episode available on YouTube. But the episode in full is not, and this show is not on any streamers.
Wow, that's right now.
I just happen to have this DVD, so we watched it from that. But we picked, the generator picked, I should say, the last episode of this series.
That was the last one.
That was the very last one that they aired. They made a few other ones that I think are on that DVD as bonuses.
Well, we almost watched a different one.
But we almost watched a different one because I put the wrong disc in.
Yeah.
But the one we watched was about this wrestler. And it was called Basher Malone.
Basher Malone, yeah.
Who was played here by Steve DeSalvo. Unlike some of these other ones we've done so far, where there were kind of like famous people, I didn't know anybody from this.
No.
So yeah. And this is a one of these shows with an intro. We figured out that it has an outro as well.
That's pretty good.
Of a different
come back
thing.
To the dark
Come
side.
back to the dark
I
side.
like that guy. The voice
Well,
is
we
good.
can't come back. It's the last episode.
Yep.
But yeah, we figured out who that voice was. Let me see if I can find it again. But I had heard of this show, but never seen it. We had to, I think, open the thing up here. So let's see. Okay, so it's based on 50s comic books like Tales from the Crypt and The Vault of Horror. So Tales from the Crypt was a comic book.
Okay, so that's where the bar.
Interesting.
See,
Okay, so it did actually come first.
There we go.
All right. Oh, and then there was a movie in 1990, Tales from the Darkside, the movie, which starred, among others, Steve Buscemi, Christian Slater, Julianne Moore. Wow, that's interesting.
What a cast.
All right, and this was syndicated. We know that already. The voiceover was this guy, Paul Sparrer, who we looked up, and he did a couple of soap operas. He was on the first ever Law and Order episode. But other than that, he's not anybody really that we would know. And all right, so that's it. We're going to talk about this specific episode called Basher Malone. And why don't you tell us very briefly what this Basher Malone is all about?
Well, Basher Malone is basically a wrestler. It's about a wrestling match, and he's the, I guess the heavy, I believe is the term.
I guess heavyweight champion.
He's the good guy of the story essentially, and he's undefeated. And
very Hulk-esque. Hulk Hogan.
Very.
This is the era.
Very Hulk Hogan-esque. Maybe even more wholesome than Hulk Hogan. He just seems he's a very nice guy. Even to the point where he's got his mom, his elderly mother's like his coach, helping him. He eats cookies to power up, and he's undefeated, beating everybody. And I guess the guy who sort of runs the arena, he's upset because he's losing all these matches. His fighters are losing, and they're supposed to be more evil. And he wants to make sure that he can defeat Basher Malone by having him go up against the most evil people that he summons from his demon dimension
behind the Pepsi machine,
because he wants there to only be evil people to be good role models for kids, because he's evil and likes being evil, and so he has to take down the good wrestler. And so it's their battle for him maintaining the championship or not. And the fights ensue.
And they do it in 22 minutes. They give us a whole morality play
about good and evil and being good and bad in kind of a cutesy fashion, and it felt a lot longer than 22 minutes.
Now, you had some things to say about this.
Yeah.
Let's get into that. You kind of held your tongue.
I tried. We were both.
I made a couple of comments for sure.
Well, basically this. The thing about these anthology shows is they're not always exactly the same, obviously.
Yeah.
Some of them have different tones. Some of them were a little more light. And a lot of Twilight Zone episodes had morality tales like this that are a bit more folksy and light.
Right.
And it's a little fantasy.
Yeah, a little lighter on like the horror or the supernatural
it's
stuff.
Quite, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So I was okay with the tone, that it was a little sillier. But even within the context of this little story, I had one big problem. Wrestling is fake.
Now I wonder.
Wait. Wrestling is fake.
Wrestling is fake. We know this now.
We know this now, but this was part of the problem, I guess. And I don't know if people knew that as much in the 80s.
I think we did, but it was like one of those things.
You just ignored?
In '88, I was 11 years old. So my brother watched wrestling. I certainly thought it was real for the longest time. I don't remember when exactly I knew that it was fake, but it was one of those things where it was not like the most known thing ever.
Okay.
It was one of those things where it was like you'd hear whisperings about, wrestling's made up, on the playground, and you're like, well, that can't be. And there was no internet to look it up. So
and
like
over time it eventually
and over time now we all know. But
which might have been part of the
downfall.
downfall.
At the time maybe it wasn't as prevalent.
That's fair. This is kind of like at the golden age, right?
Yeah,
when
this was
popular.
WWF at the time was
that
really popular.
Was one of my issues and even if we're pretending like we don't know that it's fake, the stakes were a little hard to get into because the worst thing that'll happen is this guy who's the pinnacle, because I guess wrestling's so big that he's going to inspire youth to be good. He's not going to be able to be wrestling champion anymore, which is important because nothing's more important than wrestling is.
I thought they were going to kill him. I thought they were going to say the stakes are going to be you're going to die.
No, you're going to
if you lose.
You have
this
to retire
match.
And never compete again. I'm like, well, that sucks, but I feel like there's more evil things that these evil monsters.
Low stakes.
The stakes were.
I thought somebody was going to die,
or the mom would get killed. Like,
right.
But even they're doing gags. The only person to get killed really was the one evil henchwoman, and I'm like, they can do that, which I guess in wrestling you can do, but why didn't they just retaliate and shoot each other? Because they got lasers. The stakes.
And one of my issues with it was so they're doing this best of 3 match with the evil Pepsi machine man, and then Basher Malone.
Yeah.
But he's like, oh, okay, so if you lose, this evil guy's going to take your championship belt. Well, who's to say? There's no audience there. There's no cameras. Well, it's like a weird.
Well, it's like it's supposed to be an underground thing where they compete, but that loses the impact because you can't see the hero defeated, so it's a bad evil plan.
So, like, if I woke up the one day and was told, like, on the news, oh, yeah, like, Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan had some
fight in a
basement, and it turns out Andre lost everybody, or whatever.
You'd be like, what? Well,
and Hulk's your new champion. You'd be like...
A lot of people would be like,
I'm sorry... if I what? Like, so
because you say so.
So that's what stuck out to me that didn't make sense. So I didn't quite get that part.
So
but
in the context of the story, it's still, as silly as it is, it still doesn't make much sense.
Right, correct.
Because I don't understand the motivations. Like, he's an evil guy. Like, if it was something more traditional, like boxing, which I bet Twilight Zone has done an episode with that as well, like making a deal or something.
Yeah.
So,
but you thought it was when we first heard Basher Malone.
But then
you thought boxing. I didn't even think wrestling. I thought Basher meant like he bashed people's skulls in or something.
Or like you're thinking mobster or like a
like I thought. Yeah, I thought he was just a straight murderer person,
which would have been cool. And then there could have been a morality thing there. Like I could have done that. Maybe some makes a wish with a genie or something. I'm serious. Like the Twilight Zone and stuff. They've done these sort of things, but. I just feel like even like the rules and a little more about what was going on would have helped.
Was it too corny, you think? Because we had a lot of corny scenes like with the mom.
No, see, that's what they were going for. Yeah. I think they're amping up. They have this sort of isolated, silly, small scale story that's more of a morality play, but also leaning into the wrestling camp, which a lot of stuff like that would happen.
Very hot at the time.
You could tell that would be some guy's gimmick, having his mom there.
Right.
That stuff seems totally legit.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's bad.
So
I just think it's just that even I feel like actual wrestling matches now, they try to have a plot where it's stakes are bigger. Yeah. The stakes are bigger.
They always say now that, wrestling is the soap opera for men.
Because
they've got these long, plot lines now, and the good and evil,
and I guess that in
so and so has amnesia.
If correct us if we're wrong, but I'm assuming that in that context, if a really good guy who is doing well, lost the championship, that would be a big deal.
A huge deal.
Because you want the good guy to be
it
the
would
number
ripple
one.
through, right?
So maybe the stakes aren't really that high in wrestling anyway. People just get into it. But sometimes they have demons and stuff in there.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
No, I agree with that. And also of the ones we've seen so far, so we saw the original Twilight Zone, the very first from the 50s. But then the second one we did was right around this era. It was Ray Bradbury Theater, and it was like early 80s.
I really like that.
This was 88. Yeah. And to me, that one, the Ray Bradbury, didn't feel
dated
necessarily like a product of its time.
No.
This is so
80s.
So 80s between the soundtrack, the Hulk Hogan lookalike, all of that stuff. To me, even the audience and the framing of like the way that the text was, like with the credits.
Oh yeah. The opening sequence, some of the effects,
the effects, all of that. Yeah, the Pepsi machine. I mean, I can't fault them for that, but
it's still cool. It looks cool.
I do like to see classic Pepsi machines, but it to me much more so than the Ray Bradbury, which was right around the same time. I thought much more dated in 80s.
Yeah, specific. I honestly thought that maybe Bradbury, the one, could have come out like in the mid 90s. I had no idea.
It really could have been anywhere from the 70s to the 90s.
I had no idea. Yeah.
So yeah, I cannot believe how dated that it is. To be honest.
Yeah.
So look, this was the last episode of the series. Hopefully they got all their good ideas out in the first few seasons.
Most likely.
And look, this will probably come up again. We have a big master list, but there's, I think, 90 episodes or something of Tales from the Darkside. So the random number generator could certainly pull it again.
I will say to try to add some positives to it. Like, I think it was kind of fun. They were having fun performing.
Well, they certainly had fun with it, and I do think the wrestling moves. We had said that we weren't familiar with this person, but let me look him up. Steve DeSalvo played Basher Malone. Let's see. We thought maybe he was like a bodybuilder or something. Okay, he worked for WCW, the World Championship Wrestling. So if you are a wrestling fan, maybe you'll know this guy. He worked as the Minotaur.
Ooh.
In Puerto Rico, and then he was also known as Sadistic Steve Strong when he was playing in Calgary. So his debut was 85. So at this point, he would have been. He wasn't in WWE, I guess, but maybe he was in this WCW at that point.
Huh.
And Tales from the Darkside is even listed on as one of his big things.
Nice.
Okay, so if you're a wrestling fan, maybe you'll know who that is. Yeah. We didn't.
I thought he was pretty good in this as a wrestler.
I thought he was. Yeah, I thought the wrestling.
I bought him.
Me too.
Yeah,
from both sides made sense.
The matches were actually decent. I was entertaining. I mean, it wasn't like
the mom was sort of. I don't want to say funny, but like
amusing.
She was amusing, and she was definitely there to kind of make you smile.
She was the. I don't know, more levity, I guess.
Yeah, but your least favorite part actually came at the very end when we learned that this nice man, supposed to be the nicest guy in town, never took his mom out to a dinner before.
That doesn't make any sense.
That doesn't make sense.
If he's the best guy, who clearly is stuck with his mom.
And clearly they're attached at the hip here. That part was weird.
Didn't make any sense. So, the script maybe could use a little ironing out, but it was fine, I guess.
How did you feel about the portal itself? It looked kind of cool.
Appropriately cheesy, but it was a cool effect.
Yeah.
Like, I liked the look of it. I think them going into it wasn't exactly the best.
No, you're not going to get good effects. Yeah, you're not going to get good effects on that.
But it looked kind of cool.
It was like a big blue swirl.
Right. My favorite effect of it was actually the classic rewinding of the footage where we have the smoke machine inside the door. And they clearly opened it, and it's going up. But that did look cool.
It looked fine.
We know what to do, but it looked nice. That was cool. They used that machine well. The product placement was very cool.
Yeah. And we were both drinking Mountain Dews at the time, which was on that Pepsi machine. So that made sense.
Yeah.
All right. So overall, this is not high, I think, on the list.
No.
But
I thought it was okay.
I thought it was okay. I think so far we've graded a couple of real good ones.
Yeah, I think they're very good.
And listen, as anthologies go, you're going to get some duds or some less than stellar ones in the mix.
Sure.
So for grade wise, Basher Malone, I don't know. I'm sort of in like the C minus kind of a camp.
Okay. Well, I tend to be nicer. I'll probably give it a C plus.
C plus. Okay.
I'll give it a nice C plus. I thought it was okay.
All right. I think I will leave it with a C then, I guess.
All right.
It's so very dated though. Surprisingly so.
The soundtrack was kind of annoying. They're like farting synths.
Yeah, and then that bass line held on for
A little long.
Moments and moments, and we were singing it long
Da, da, da,
after.
da, da, da. I mean, the rock part at the end was decent. Is that theme,
Yeah.
I guess?
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan-esque theme.
I guess C is okay.
Yeah, C is fine. I mean, it's
It
fine.
might be a C minus, but
I don't know.
I'll leave it with a C. Yeah, we look forward to the next one.
I hope it's better.
Because we're running late on March, we actually watched April already and know it's an Alfred Hitchcock Presents. So
yes,
that right there may speak to the quality of it, but we'll see. So thank you for joining.
Thank you.
And we'll see everybody next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.